but nobody like prepares you for this type of field where it's like you have to navigate yourself. Like you can't, it's not like you go in for a job interview.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's Ramos Law Difference Makers podcast time. And I, as your host, Dr. Jim Hoven, get a chance to meet with super cool people doing amazing things. Some of the things you might not even realize that they're what's going on behind the scenes. And that's the case today. Today, I have a wonderful entertainer. Her name's Amanda Gish. And we're going to talk about her love for entertaining, the styles of entertainment that she does, but also her focus, which is voiceover for some of these anime. I don't know if cartoon is even the right descriptor because they're
It's
productions.
animation. Anime is just Japanese animation, basically. So yes, they are cartoons.
But they're advanced. They're not like your grandma's cartoons. It's not like me watching the Flintstones.
No, absolutely not. I mean, some of them I feel like can be, but some of them get really, really deep and touch on subjects that you're just like, whoa, I didn't even think this would even be a thing.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about that, Amanda. But first, let me welcome you to the show. Thank you for taking time out and of your busy schedule. I know you travel around, you do your thing, you're acting and singing and writing and all this other stuff as well. It must be an amazing, amazing life to be able to lend yourself to entertaining people at different levels. Have you always been an entertainer since you were a little girl? And if so, tell me about your childhood and the entertainment connection.
Absolutely. I mean, not professional until I was in like my mid 20s probably. But as a kid, when I remember this is like when I got like the acting bug, I guess is what they call it. I was in third grade and I was in music class. And I remember we were going to do it was like a musical, it was a Christmas show, and I think it was like a modern take on A Christmas Carol for like written for elementary school kids to perform. So I remember going home and the teacher was basically like, you can sign up for a speaking role or a non-speaking role. And I remember like not really comprehending what that meant. And I asked my mom and I was like, do I want a speaking role or do I want a non-speaking role? My mom goes, you want a speaking role? I was like,
Baby,
okay.
go get it.
So I auditioned. No, I don't even remember auditioning, but I remember signing up for a speaking role. And I think she had to say a few things. And I ended up getting like the lead girl part in that one. And it was like because it was set in modern times. And so I remember there's like Ebenezer Scrooge, and then I was like actually his secretary.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so it was like a modern take. I don't even know, like, but she was like the main girl that was like trying to keep everything like organized. I remember being on stage and doing things that I liked, but I really don't even remember the full premise of the show.
That is
Other than it,
so
yeah.
interesting. You know what that reminds me of is, and I wrote a note here as you were saying this, every one of us in our lives have what I call seminal moments, which means they are pivotal moments, but you never know when they're going to come. And in your case, it was in third grade when you got that bug. I remember when I was in chiropractic school, so I had played football through high school and, kind of doing the athlete thing. And there was something that gave me on game day. On game day, there was a feeling, there was a flow that I'd never gotten anywhere other part of my life until I'm in chiropractic school and I was asked to do a presentation in front of a group of high school kids on health and low back pain or whatever it was. And I can still remember, just like you now, I wasn't near as young, but when I stood up in front of that audience and I had a chance to share a message and connect with them and help them hopefully take information that they could use to make themselves healthier or better athletes or whatever we were talking about, it was the closest thing that I'd ever felt to having that pregame feeling again. And it was one of those seminal moments, but to have it happen in third grade, Amanda, that's amazing.
I mean, I will admit it kind of took a while to like make it work. And I'm still trying to make it work because, I ended up, majoring in theater, and that was just like my focus. But nobody like prepares you for this type of field where it's like you have to navigate yourself. Like you can't, it's not like you go in for a job interview and you keep like moving up in the, you know,
In the ranks.
industry. Yeah, because there's so many different things that you can do. So I was just like, I don't even know where to get professional auditions. Like, how do I do this? Where do I go? Like, I'm so confused. How do I have health insurance and things like that?
Yes.
And the taxes are crazy because you're working for yourself, you're a contractor, and it's, yeah.
So how did you go about navigating that? Well, actually, before we go into that, did you then stay in all the social circles for doing acting and singing and all that kind of stuff into high school? And then that transitioned you into deciding, I want to do this
Yes.
professionally. So you went to theater in college?
Mhm. Yes. So absolutely. Like I pretty much dove head first and I went in and I was getting like private singing lessons. I was doing acting lessons. I was doing theater. I was doing show choir, and then I was doing my regular choir. And that was like my main focus because I loved that feeling. And I kind of got a wake up call like going into college because I grew up in a small town and my senior year, I was doing very good for I guess myself. And far as far as that, like I was getting the lead roles, I was very confident in what I wanted to do. And then when I went into college, it was like no one is there to look out for me. My dad was my high school principal. So
Oh,
So it was definitely a wake up call. And I kind of fell back from it for a little bit. Like I was going through this weird identity crisis. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. Like the people are very different than my theater friends from high school. And so I stuck with it as much as I can. But I also did added more like speech communications because I was like, well, maybe this is actually a pipe dream and I'm never going to make it work. And I remember my senior year of college, I had been into anime for a while.
as far as watching it and following certain
Yes,
shows and that kind of thing?
exactly.
Got
Like
it.
I think originally like Pokemon and Sailor Moon were like my intro into anime. And then I was watching what on Cartoon Network and late night, they had like this thing called Adult Swim. And it's where they would show I say adult anime. It's not like adult anime,
Not
but
like
anime.
XXX anime.
Yeah, right. If anime for
For
the
adults,
older,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, the content is
And
different.
exactly. And I remember that's when it clicked. I was like, wait, that's acting. Like it had never clicked to me that voice acting and like stage acting and on camera acting were a thing. And I was like, I wonder how I can get into that. Like I'm doing this. And so I looked up after the thing, it showed like the production company and it was Funimation. And I was like, where is Funimation? Funimation's in Dallas. What?
And that's where you were, or in a small town in Texas, or
Right. Yeah. Greenville is basically, 40 miles outside of Dallas.
yeah,
So, people commute there all the time.
yes.
And so I was like, I want to do this. And so I actually got a job at the radio station in Greenville. And it was just a country radio station. I wasn't DJing or anything. I was just like helping out with like reception type stuff. And I recorded a terrible demo as far as like the quality was fine, but I just went in and did really dumb voices and they burned that for me and I sent it off to them. And I think it was like 2 years later, I finally get an audition and I didn't get anything.
Okay.
I didn't get, I wasn't called in for any roles. And then maybe like 7, 8 years later, I happened to I'm like back I'm in Dallas now and I'm trying to get an agent because I feel like I was like that's I think my next step because that's how I'm going to get more auditions and things like that.
And were you
And
eating? And when I say eating, I mean, were you making enough as an artist to live, or were you having to do other things
oh
like
no,
the
I was doing
secretary job and all that kind of
I
stuff?
was doing a
Okay.
lot of other stuff. So absolutely not.
But you were still chasing the dream.
Yes. And so I met someone and they were teaching a voice acting class and I was like, "Oh, okay. I would love to take that." So I did. And ADR work, which is very different than prelay. So prelay, you record your scripts and they animate to your voice, which is like a lot of Western cartoons and things like that. So dubbing and ADR, we're getting in these scripts and the animation's already done. So we're having to match our script to the mouth flaps that are already there.
Wow.
And it's a Japanese cadence. And so it's very interesting. So we have to make sure we have the right amount of syllables that are going with what they're, and still trying to tell the story that the Japanese is telling. So I remember, and me being like very dyslexic, it was just like, you don't get a chance to read or memorize the script like you do with other acting.
Yes.
And so it's like, here it is, and go. And you hear like these 3 beeps. And then on the third beat, like right after the third beep is when you go, because that's when their mouth will open. And so I just remember being like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, how do I watch their mouth and how do I read this at the same time?
Wow.
And it was definitely a learned skill.
Yes.
So finally, that teacher ended up doing some contract directing and contacted me and was like, I remember you from my class. Do you want to come in and do some walla, which is with all actors? And so that is basically, we'll have about 4 people in the booth at the same time. And we're doing like background scenes. Like there's a cafe and there's people in the background, like talking about things. And usually the wall is not scripted. It's just, you're bantering with the people around you just to fill in that ambient sound. And then that's how it happened.
That's how it started. You know what? I hear a few more seminal moments in your journey from what you just shared. And one was when you were watching late night TV in the Adult Swim and you ran into anime and realized, not that you hadn't been following, but there's something clicked for you that night that I want to check this out. 2, that it happened to be in Dallas. And 3, that you have a director that was your coach that moved into a different spot and remembered you because of the work and the connection that you made, remembered you to place this in. It's so cool when we look back on our lives, there's just a few pivot points where things really change for you. That's amazing. Go ahead.
It's been a journey for sure. Cause even when you're like people, I feel like when they get that first session, they're like, I'm in, I've done it. No, like you have to keep going and you have to keep like showing your face. You have to keep working on your skills. Like I'm taking private acting lessons now over Zoom from someone that I've worked with in the past. And it's just, you have to just keep going and keep really investing in your craft.
Yeah, like anything, you got to hone your skills and always get better or else you get dull, right? That makes sense to me.
Exactly.
What about when you're looking at these? I'm so interested when you said that there's the difference between voiceover acting and regular acting in the coaching and in the preparation. You had mentioned the scripting and the 3 beeps and how you connect with that, like go, because here's when the mouse starts moving. Are there other big differences in the coaching and preparation for getting an acting coach versus a voice acting coach that would be appreciated by us that don't know anything?
Right. Now, that's actually a very good question because I would say no, because acting is acting. You might tweak a little things for different medias because, on stage, you're usually big and bold so everyone can see you versus on camera, you're not unless your character is just big, but usually you're a little bit more subdued because that picks up on camera and then it looks kind of weird, like you're doing a child's or a children's show, and those are always big. So, so you tweak little things. And I feel like with voice acting, one of my big things I feel like with acting is I always felt like I had very good facial expressions.
Yes.
And those don't obviously come across in voice acting.
Yeah, I was wondering that. That's so interesting, Amanda, that you say that, because I was watching one of your anime clips and you're like a cat woman, for lack of a better term. And so you say, hey, I missed you that last time, but I'm not going to make that mistake again. And you're in a battle with a guy that, and I don't know who's good and who's bad in the part.
It's subjective.
It's subjective. And so you go through this process and it's a very action-packed scene, right? Where you're dodging whatever, kind of fire flames he's throwing, and then you're doing your own thing and back and forth. When it gets to that, I imagine then you need to animate your voice and your face and all the expressions to match what's going on in there. And do they give you that script and then you have to know what to do, and then do they tailor the animation to your voice at all, or not at all?
No, you tailor yourself to the animation for ADR or dubbing. And with the clip you're talking about, that's from Dragon Ball Super. Or in the original, well, the original is Dragon Ball, but the one that everyone knows is Dragon Ball Z. And so that's like it's so popular. And so that anime is known to just being like big and bold and just huge and a lot of yelling. And honestly, like when I did that role, I've done some behind the scenes, even like for like my YouTube, and you can see like my full body is like into these characters because I'm really trying, because you have to like pull all this in and just show it with your voice. But I mean, you can still tell like, like, oh, so the directors will be like, say that with a smile, and it just changed the little nuances like in your voice and things like that. So, I mean, I definitely go all in, and I have hit the microphone. I have like stumbled back and all this kind of stuff, but it's so much fun. And like, I would not trade it for the world.
And when you're doing these, like in the case that we talked about where you're in the conflict scene, do you typically do them on your own, or was that person in studio with you where you were going back and forth?
No, we are completely on our own.
Wow. That makes it harder, I would think, by the way. Instead of you and I going back and forth right now, we're literally using each other's energy to keep a conversation flowing, but to not be in the room with someone, that's a really challenging form of acting from my perspective.
Right, because you're not getting like their like live energy. And especially if you're the first person to actually record and no one else has recorded yet. So what they do is like they'll play the Japanese for you so you can hear the scene, you can hear what's going on, and then they'll do the 3 beeps and then you go. And if you're having a conversation with someone, if that person hasn't recorded, so you've seen it in Japanese, but if they haven't recorded, then they're playing the English. And so there's literally like, they're not saying anything and you're trying to react to something. And if it's something like super emotional, you're like, okay.
Wow, that seems so complicated. How long does it take for you to prepare for one of these roles? And I don't know if you're an ongoing character like that, if that person that I saw is now in all these episodes, or if you kind of do one episode and then you're not there for a while. But how long does it take to get ready to do this? Because it just seems like there's a lot of moving pieces.
Right. We're pretty much just thrown in. Like, it's a lot of times I would even go to the studio and have no idea who I'm recording for. And so it's just basically like figuring out the character there. The director will tell you a little bit, but I do have like a few reoccurring roles that I've already known a little bit from the past. And so I kind of know, and a lot of times I'll try to watch the next few episodes to see what they're doing and how I should be, I guess. Sometimes it is really interesting to go in blind and just play a little bit, but it depends on, I feel like, if I know the director or not.
Yes.
Because if I don't, then I want to be like super as prepared as I can be.
And so when you're going, for lack of a better term, ad-libbing, you don't have any idea of a script. You're just making it up as you go along?
For the Wallace scenes, there are scripts for individual characters. Those are written out.
I see.
And
for the Wallace scenes.
Yeah, it's more for the Wallace scenes that there's not like a ton. They may have some like, here's suggested of things to say, but a lot of times it's just, improv type stuff. But if your character is like in the script, then they will have everything written out and stuff.
And do they do these for English, write them in English, or is everything kind of a Japanese thing that then gets transferred into for the American or the English viewing audience?
It gets translated. So the script, the company gets the script in Japanese, and then there's a translator who will translate basically what the vibe is and what they're saying. And then they actually have script writers, and they're the ones that go in and be like, okay, so we need this many syllables for what they're saying right here. And then they'll actually try to like count out to see if everything matches, like the lip flaps and everything.
Wow. So this is what we don't want, I take it from what you're doing is, remember the old Godzilla movies? Did you ever see those? Man, when I was a kid, I used to love, and you know, I'm a lot older than you, but when we'd watch these Godzilla versus Rodan and all this kind of stuff, the voices were always off. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so the goal is to not have that happen in what we're doing now.
Right, right. And even if you go back and watch the old like Speed Racers and stuff, they're kind of like that too. So
Yeah.
we've definitely evolved over times. I remember, I mean, this was before I got into it, but they even used to record via tape. And so if you messed up, you'd have to like rewind it and they would
Oh.
record over it. And so now everything's very digital, and you can kind of just, the flow is a little bit better.
I'm surprised that, and maybe this is just the company that you work with, I'm surprised that there has not been a push towards written English original content as opposed to transferred content. Because it seems like when I was in college, what I was doing watching cartoons in college, I have no idea as I was prepping for Cairo school, but I used to watch this show called The Thundercats. And
Yeah.
it was a similar, it reminded me similarly of a storytelling that was a little bit more adult in nature, and I'm sure not to the extent that the anime stuff is, but it wasn't for your 6-year-old. And they had these
Right.
characters that were being developed that, you know, had strengths and weaknesses and all this kind of thing. But there's no real American or English push on these. They've just said, no, this is a niche all its own. Is that what
Right.
the deal is?
I feel like, I feel like what the appeal is for anime is, you know, and not to get like into like politics or anything, but Japanese politics and American politics, they're, you know, different issues are different things. And so, oh, excuse me. I feel like, maybe within like our culture, as much as you try to be like a non-biased writer, there will be like little nuances that come in every once in a while. And so I feel like why the American culture appeals a lot to the anime is because those biases are completely different. And so you don't have anything like, I mean, there definitely are political animes, but as far as like a lot of, it's just done very differently. And yeah, it's just, I don't even, because I don't even know what appealed to me. It was just like something, especially I remember when I saw Pokemon, I was like, my mind was just blown. And I remember just being like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I got made fun of it because when I went as like in 8th grade and into high school, like I got made fun of so bad for liking anime. And it was just like this little thing that like you didn't tell people. And because it had like a stigma to it, I guess, that I didn't really even know. And then I actually got into, after high school and college, like I was just like, I was fully immersed in this culture. And then I started going to conventions and I got into cosplay and just everything.
And what is
And
cosplay?
so cosplay is like costume play. And so Halloween has always been my favorite holiday because I guess like maybe because like I was a stage actor and like putting on costumes and just like becoming that character always had an appeal to me. And so when I found out that cosplay was a thing, I was like, whoa. And, you know, there's so many characters that just looked so cool that you just didn't see in like American animation. And it was so neat, like just creating these costumes, going to these conventions and kind of like showing off, and people treated you like you were that character.
Wow. And how long were the conventions? Were they a couple of days where you guys would like, and would you act out? Is there acting involved in these things, or is it mostly people just walking around?
People can. I just liked walking around, and I liked looking at, they would have like a artist alley type area where you could buy and support local artists. They would make like pens, they would make drawings and stickers and things. And then they would have another room that would sell just like merchandise that was like licensed merchandise. And it was just really cool because it got into like me and like my crew, we would get a hotel room for the weekend, and we would cosplay, would go out, people would take your pictures, and you would just like show off everything that you've done, and then even meet some people, and go back to your room, and just chill, and maybe have a drink or something, and then we would bring like our gaming systems and play video games, and just
Just a
have
fun time to connect.
just so much fun. Yeah.
That's great. How big is, do you know, and maybe you don't know the answer to this question, how big a market or what is the popularity of anime in America? Because I've heard of it many, many times. I've never fallen deep into it, and I've seen flickers of it go by. But if they're having conventions, it's got to have a pretty good impact.
Oh
Do you
my
know how
gosh.
deep it is, how deep it
I
goes here?
mean, it's a multi-million-dollar industry right now. Like, it is huge. Because when I first started going to conventions, there was two conventions like in Dallas, and those were pretty much it. And now there's like all these conventions that pop up throughout the year. And like, I was even invited to go to a convention in around the Boston area. So they flew me up there to be a guest, and I got to like talk to people, have panels and do autographs, which is so interesting to me. It's weird that people want my autograph.
So cool. That's so cool. And so it's a big deal, and I'm sure it's growing. Is
Oh my gosh.
in your professional journey, is this really where now the lane that you want to stay in and maximize? And if so, what do you see? Where do
Absolutely.
you see your career going in anime?
This is absolutely like what I want to do, what I would love to do, and just to keep this going. I love going to conventions. One of the really cool things that happened to me recently was I went back to my hometown, and like I was telling you, it's a small town. And they had a convention at the library there.
Wow.
And yeah, and so my dad knew some of the people that were like putting it on, or had like mentioned. He goes, "Well, Google Amanda Gish." And so they Googled me, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, do you think she would like come down and be at the convention?" And so my dad called me, and I was like, "I would love to. I think that would be so much fun." So I packed up and drove down to Dallas, or around the Dallas area, I guess, because right outside Dallas, and went and did the convention, and it was so cool. And people were like, "Wait, you're from here?" Because I was like, "Listen, I'm from here. I was raised here. I went to high school here." And then the most like humbling and amazing experience that happened to me was the middle school anime club asked if I would come speak to them.
Wow. And
And
what did you share with them?
so I went and I spoke with them, and it was so cool because they had no idea what was coming, because we had just talked to the teacher. And so what I kind of just like shared a little bit of my journey, but also shared that, like, as much as I love what I do, it's not all that glamorous, because there's months and months where I don't record. And so if I'm not recording, I'm not getting money. So usually I have other jobs lined up that I do to help, support that. And usually, like, as a voice actor, my main thing is I loved to thank fans, because like without fans, I wouldn't even be able to be doing what I'm doing. And the coolest thing is, I think she was like the president of the anime club, and she was just like, "I just want to thank you for being a part of something that has made mine and my dad's relationship so strong." And I was like, "You were 12 years old."
Wow.
And I was like, "How?" Like, how? I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, thank you for saying that. I would love to know how." And she goes, he was always into Dragon Ball Z, and that wasn't really my thing. And then when we started watching My Hero Academia, which is like one of the bigger animes that I'm in, and she said, "We just bonded on that. And it's something that I hold really true and dear to me." And I was just really taken aback. And I just thought it was the coolest thing.
I agree. That is special.
Yeah.
And to know that you, when they got to see you in real life, that it was like, wow, making that connection, that is a
Yeah.
great influence. Like that is making a difference, and it's so cool.
And I told them, I was like, guys, this community right here is so special and unique, and you need to support each other. I didn't have an anime club, and we were made fun of. And I think some people still are kind of made fun of, but I was like, just they don't matter. I was made fun of now, and then, made fun of for liking all this stuff. And then I've had people try to like contact me now that I do it. And they're like, oh, well, I like anime now. And I'm like, no,
No, you don't.
don't even come at me now.
That's funny. Do you ever do voiceovers or voice acting for non-anime things with radio or any of that kind of stuff?
I not too much radio. I have done a few video games,
Mm.
and I working with my coach. He really wants me to really get into the commercial field, because he thinks that I would be, good at that. And I agree with him. I need to make some more connections and start submitting to some more agencies in different regions to start getting like those types of auditions and stuff, because just where I am now, I'm just not getting those types of auditions. So it's just like, all right, now I need to start doing a little more research. I need to start like putting my name out there again, these different things. So it's just so much that you don't think about when you want to get into this type of field.
It seems to me that just like anything else, it takes a team and teamwork. So you've talked about your coach, and I don't know if you have a manager or not, all these things, but it takes a team to try to get this done. And I was wondering, as you were sharing this, what kind of team do you assemble to be successful in this group? And who do you look for mentors? Other voice actors as mentors that like, wow, I really like his or her style of how they do this. How do you process that?
So it's, I'm sure some people they do have a team, especially with certain agencies and stuff. I don't really have a manager. I have like an agent that I'll get a few auditions with here and there. But for the most part, like I am everything. And I do have a convention agent as well. And so, but I still have to market myself. So I'm like my own marketing manager, and I'm my own like social media creator. I'm my own content creator. I'm my own videographer when I do my YouTube, and I'm my own like producer when I'm doing any type of covers. And it's a lot, and I get overwhelmed, and a lot of things, and I have to like step back from a few things every once in a while, because I just get like, I don't want to burn myself out trying to like learn all these things and stuff.
Yes.
But I mean, it's definitely a lot. And having that sense of community in the voice acting field. When I went back to Texas, I caught up with I say old friend. But we had such an amazing conversation, and he was just giving me tips on like how to like put myself out there, how to market myself, what to do. Because I keep waiting for like conventions to contact me or contact my convention agent, but really like I need to start putting my name out there and reaching out to them, so possibly in the future they'll remember me and try to contact my agent for different things.
What a great lesson. I think everyone, and this puts you in the category of entrepreneur, right? At the end of the day, you're an entertainer, but you're an entrepreneur. And I think any entrepreneur listening to this is going to relate to what you're saying, the struggles. We did recently an episode with a guy who owns a very, very, very successful ice cream store here in Denver. And some of the things that he was talking about, like having to create systems, making sure that he had training in place, teams, overcoming how to deal with when freezers break down, all this stuff, it transfers into any entrepreneurial business when you're responsible for how things go. And man, to hear that you're willing and you're seeing what's going on and you're facing the grind and you're looking for resources, there's so much for all of us to learn in that part of your journey, right? Like you're the butterfly coming out of the cocoon of the caterpillar, and it's just like coming through.
It's so funny that you say that because literally I decided my spirit animal, my theme for this year is butterfly.
Oh, nice. Look at you. There you go.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. That is awesome. I want to switch now off the anime just a little bit now that we've kind of gone into this other part of your life being what's behind the scenes, behind the camera, and find out this. When you've gone through all that you've gone through with, being made fun of and then not getting stuff when you've been applying for it and all these stuff, what do you do to deal with that rejection or perceived rejection and that stress? What is your coping mechanism or your dealing mechanism? Because I think a lot of us could learn from that.
So originally it was complete shutdown and
That didn't work so well?
that did not work very well because like literally years would go by and I'm like, why is nothing happening? Well, it's like, well, you're not putting the energy into it. You only get out of it what you put into it. So so for me basically it's um I have to I have to I have to just move on. And it's so much easier said than done. And making sure that I have the right community around me and making sure that I have people that support me and knowing that and it's finally something that I just had to learn like over time like you're going to hear more no's than yes. That's just what's going to happen. And a lot of times I will try to go and like just do things for me. Like I started a YouTube and I'm like, you know what? If I'm not getting auditions and getting in front of people, like, why don't I do it myself? But my YouTube, it's a little bit different because I really enjoyed getting into like doing like vlogging and things like that and more thinking about life differently and knowing that there are beautiful things in the everyday and just like like even like I'm doing a week in my life or a spring week in my life and it's just like, oh well, I started working on my flower beds again and putting so much work into that and hopefully by the time early summer comes I'll have some like beautiful blooms to look at. And yeah, so for me it's definitely like learning how to and it took a while, but it was just really seeing the beautiful in every day and that yes, you put your energy into this and make it happen. But if you stress over it, you're going to make yourself sick. You're going to make yourself feel awful. And then you're going to start bringing down the people around you. You're going to start bringing down your partner. You're going to start bringing down like your family. And then they're not really going to know how to react to you because they want to support you. But if you have a negative energy around you, it's not fun to be around.
Yes. Oh, no, I get what you're saying there and becoming proactive in, I love what you said where you want to have the good people around you. And I think, have you ever had to go through that process? You alluded to it just a little bit ago of saying people that were now that they know that you're in the industry, now all of a sudden anime's cool and they want to kind of connect with you. Have you found that in the support system as well, that there were people that maybe weren't supporting you, not that they were bad people, but that just the connection was there that you had to kind of move away from and
Absolutely.
And what was that process like for you?
In the acting industry, I love having friends because it's like-minded people and you love art and you love performing, like you all love doing the same thing. But some people, and I have been guilty of it in the past, not so much anymore because like I said, I've changed my mindset. But a lot of people will see you as competition and they'll see you as a threat to maybe like if you have the same voice type, which like it's called acting, so you talk in a higher register for something, it's fine. But yeah, they might see you as like a threat. And we're definitely some slightly toxic relationships where I'm just like, this just isn't working. And I feel like both of us just kind of like, it was like we kind of stopped hanging out. And then it was just like, not that because I don't like to just like cut people out, but it's like a slow burn type of, well, you know what? And it's not even something in the future if we happen to, see each other in the future and it's like, oh, how are you? How have you been? And let's get lunch or something, but it might not be
Not
what it
invested time.
right. Because I don't like to bring people down. I like to lift people up. And I just yeah, and some people would bring out that competitiveness in me sometimes, and I'm just like, I just don't like who I am. I didn't say that to them. I don't
Right.
like who I am around you.
Right. Right.
But like seriously, like, and it's only been, I feel like maybe in the past few years, as far as like changing my mindset, because I got especially during like the pandemic, I got like very like depressed over like these roles and stuff because I was going in all the time and then, having to move away, and we were still doing stuff remotely, but not getting that face time with directors and just the people and the energy that you feel when you're around like people and stuff. And so that's when I finally was just like, you're going to change the way you think about life. Like you
So
have to.
good. That is so good and powerful. I hope that everyone watching and listening takes that message home. If nothing else, that they take home that how we bring ourselves to life, the weather we bring to the party, determines so much the weather that we experience. That is beautiful. I do want to ask you this as we kind of wind up. What is the advice that you would have for people if they said, "Man, I want to get into this"? Is there something that you could offer someone at any age who'd be interested in following your career path?
Absolutely. So I kind of coined this term. It's like the 3 Ps, and it's like patience, practice, and persistence,
Hmm.
because it took me from me with that click of, oh, I want to do voice acting. So when I sent my demo to the time I got my first Walla session was 10 years.
Wow. Patience.
Patience, practice, and persistence. And
So good.
through that time, I started doing like these radio shows with my dad. I don't know if you know, I don't know if they're still a thing, but it was called Prairie Home Companion.
Okay.
And it was old time radio. Like it was now, but like they were pretending it was like old time radio. So they were like on stage with like the microphones, and they would have like scripts and stuff and do commercials. And so we started doing that and going to like Opry's around town and like slightly around town just to get that performance in. And I think we ended up doing that for about 8 to 10 years. And so
Wow.
like that really kind of helped me just get back on stage again and do like the voice acting in a different way. But I still needed to hone my skills because you can't just like go in there and do voices. Like
Yes.
there's a skill and there's an acting, like you have to still know the foundations of being an actor and stuff.
Absolutely. So here's my final question, and it might
Okay.
be what you just gave us with the 3 Ps. But if you've been given a piece of advice or found something along the way that you would share with someone about their whole life that has helped you become the person that you've been, that we could all take a cue from and go, oh, maybe I could incorporate that into my DNA, what would that piece of advice be?
I feel like, that piece of advice is staying true to who you are. Okay, and let me narrow that down because that sounds very blanketed. But, you know, throughout this industry, even from high school to like where I am now, if you start getting into this and then like there's people that you feel like could help you get to that next level in your field, but you kind of have weird vibes around them, like they're maybe a little more opportunist or they're not the best people in the world. You see this in Hollywood all the time. You kind of start to change and pick up that energy and that vibe so you can do what you want to do. For me, if that started happening, I would basically just be like, no, Amanda, this is not who you are. Like, you're not this type of person. And there's a negative energy. And I want positive energy. And then again, if I would go through that time where I would back off from the acting and I would go through, I'm like, I haven't acted in like a year, and I would be going through a depression. And I'm like, I need to get back to that. So I'm just going to make stuff on my own. And so because that's who I am, like I want to entertain, I want to create.
That's so
And
good.
so staying true to who I am and being a creator, even if just 2 people or 1 person sees my stuff, that's all I care about.
Right. You just want to make a difference in that person's life through your creation and make them connect to some message that you have. And I think it's beautiful. And, you know, the time that we've spent together for me has been really a treat and a joy, Amanda, because your spirit is so genuine and so authentic, and it's fun, and it's beautiful. And so I just want to tell you, I hope that someone watching or listening, seeing this somewhere, that they go, you know what, I could use her. And that's part of the connections that you were talking about earlier, you know?
Right.
So we don't limit our audience to Denver for sure. So hopefully someone will find something out. But in the meantime, how would someone reach you to get a hold of you, to learn more about you, to ask you questions, or to hire you to come do stuff for them with voiceovers or whatever your, all the talents that you have? How could they reach out to you and connect?
Absolutely. On my website, www.amandagish.com, there is literally a contact page, and they can put their email in, send me a message, and then it goes to my email, my personal email, and I get all of those. So that would be the best way. And then from there I can direct, whether it is through like the voice acting, or if it's like convention or something like that, then I can get the people involved that need to be involved all together.
That's wonderful. Well, you have made my day, Amanda. This has been such a treat for me, and I hope that as you go through the rest of your day, it's filled with joy and love and just nothing but blessings.
Thank you. You too.
All right. And we'll talk again soon. If you need anything, you just make sure that you reach out, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Okay.